Hello. Yes. Quick short video, probably not gonna be short, just like my other videos when I say they will be short. But yeah, since there is currently an event going for all three Pioneer summonings, basically summoning 200 mystical scrolls will grant you a guaranteed Pioneer of your choice. So, wanted to make this little quick PSA on which Pioneer you should focus on. Just before we start, I myself got the fire one. In my opinion, it was the best for me, but it might not be the case for you, so make sure to keep on watching on why this may be happening. I got one pioneer from regular summons and I just finished one of the guaranteed ones, so I got some skill ups for him. I haven't built him yet since I'm not building any units until I can fully max them out. Fully max kills at least. But yeah, I'll be overviewing their skills real quickly and we'll see which pioneer would be best to max. So starting with the fire one, basic attacks for all of them will not have any effect, so I'm gonna be skipping those. The second skill is fires a ball of energy, deals damage based on the target's enemy max HP 2 times, and each hit has a certain chance to apply a block beneficial effect. So max HP damage, super good against bosses, and applying beneficial effects, basically good against those units that used to buff a lot. So some of the dungeons have a lot of those, so definitely pretty useful. And the third skill is follows the providence of yin and yang to deal damage based on the target's max HP to enemies within the area and removes all beneficial effects, reduces mana upon removing a beneficial effect from an enemy summoner. So first of all, again, a max HP skill, and even though he's mainly used as a PvP stripper in the main game, so Summoners vs Arena, the double max HP scaling makes him quite good in boss battles here. This third skill is of course an AoE, so it attacks all units in the area, not just one of them. And it also strips all beneficial effects. Reduces mana upon removing a beneficial effect, so this is very situational since it could be good in PvP for example, but for that you need to remove a beneficial effect. In the current meta, I'd say you won't have trouble removing those beneficial effects. As you can see, a lot of teams are running a buffer of some sort, so there's a pixie here. I won't count this since it's just a full defense. A pixie here, pixie here, pixie here, pixie here, busted, busted. So yeah, like 8 out of 9, or was it 7 out of 8 teams are running a buffer of some sort, so it will be pretty useful in PvP. And given that the Pioneer is water element, it will be super useful against Shannon especially. But keep in mind that since we got a Theomars recently, and as well as a Bastet that's great for PvP, people will be running a little water heavy teams for quite a while, so keep in mind that you shouldn't be really taking Chivo into water heavy teams in general. So yeah, his usefulness might be a little lower here, and I would actually prioritize him as a boss killer. So for example here, this boss gives, I believe, attack speed and anti-crit or something like that. This guy gives a lot of buffs as well. This guy gives attack break and death break, but since he cleanses his attack, not attack, but cleanses his debuffs, it won't be as good here, since the second skill will essentially be useless. But these bosses will actually be super easy with Chivo, especially the third line, since it's a wind element, and Chivo being the fire one, he will get elemental advantage, meaning more power, meaning easier time hitting the required power limit. I'm not looking over at these since they are water elements and you should not be firing them with fire units, as they just get debuffed by yeah, they lose like 15% or something power from being the wrong element. So overall, Chivo, in my opinion, is pretty good for bosses, decent in PvP but very situational, and in the current meta he might find a hard time killing a lot of those teams. And also, one more thing that I want to mention is, when you choose which monster to summon, go in with a mindset that you are not gonna use him now. You're gonna start using him, I would say, a minimum of 2 months from now, since you'll need a lot of devil mons to max skill them, and if you do not max skill them, they'll be underperforming a lot compared to the nat 3s and even nat 4s by then. So yeah, go into the mindset that you are picking a pioneer that you will be using in 2, maybe 3 months, based on the events and how many Devilmons we are getting. Because you get 1 Devilmon per week from Arena and you get 2 Devilmons from Trial of Ascension. So that's essentially around 6 Devilmons per month. So you'll need like 2 to 3 months to max a pioneer out. It might be a little faster if you summon multiple ones, but yeah. Don't go into the game, into the summon circle, thinking that you'll summon that pioneer and you'll instantly be using it, because that's not gonna be the case, or he will be super weak for you. So yeah, just don't rush based on what you are trying to do right now, and think about what you're gonna be focusing on later on. So potentially you're looking at 2 more dungeons that were already announced. So the dragon and the necropolis looking thing, I'm not sure what it is exactly, since we don't have much of a teaser yet, other than their silhouette in the update video that we looked. And potentially we're looking at both the Battlefield release as well as Brawl Arena, which is most likely just the same arena but in real-time PvP by manually controlling your team, as you can see. Yeah, so those are most likely gonna be released by the time you are starting to use those units, so just keep that in mind and pick based on the other units that you currently have and see which one would pick you more. The Warrior Pioneer, so the awakened form is this, and second skill, uses the Order of Nature to apply continuous recovery to nearby allies, applies additional continuous recovery if the target has a shield. So if you're currently shielded, you'll get an additional healing effect, and that's gonna be at 3.5% of max HP each second. So it's a decent constant healing. However, if you are running a unit like Konamiya on your team, this healing in most cases will be too much, since Konamiya can boost up your team by like 50% with a single third skill. And yeah, the third skill is the Philanthropic Heart of Pioneer, spreads out to apply shield to nearby allies and applies immunity to nearby team members. So this one gives a shield and immunity, and it is a great combo with second skill, because the second skill needs the shield to give the continuous recovery, rather additional continuous recovery. However, if you plan on using this unit on auto mode, so mostly dungeons, regular arena, stuff like that, keep in mind that a lot of units, they just don't follow the correct turn order and can just pop the second skill first, the third skill second, and it will just mess up the turn order that you intended to have. So don't expect him to behave like he would behave if you controlled it manual. So just keep that in mind when comparing it to the other two. And the last ultimate uses the Order of Nature to apply continuous recovery and shield, applies immunity. So basically a good mix of both of those skills. And for this guy, I mean, I have mixed feelings about it, because while immunity is great, if your enemy has a stripper, and especially if your enemy has a Chivo, which also reduces mana upon defeating beneficial effects. If you run this guy in arena, for example, the fire one, even though he is of a losing element to water, he'll actually ruin your team a lot, and by decreasing your mana, basically after you buff up the shield, you'll be left quite defenseless and will have to wait for like 10 seconds before any of your units can even do anything other than basic attacks. So yeah, have that in mind when you are playing for the third skill. The immunity is great against teams that do not strip, or rather bosses that do not strip as well, so he is a great unit for safety, but keep in mind that it is very situational, and if the enemy has any strip of sorts, he'll underperform a lot, since most of his power is from that immunity, and without immunity, just the shield and continuous recovery is just a super weak unit in my opinion. So only pick him if you are lacking an immunity of some sort. So for example, I recently pulled Velojewel, so I naturally ignore him instantly, since this one, it both gives immunity and cleanses harmful effects, so in my opinion it's way better than what Wusa can offer, so that was an instant skip for me. And yeah, just keep that in mind when picking the unit. Also, don't remember that you are picking for using him 2-3 months after now rather than right now, so the strength that you find him to be good at might change based on the updates and the content that's released. So yeah, based on that, if you are currently needing a healer slash shielder, if you do not have an immunity unit, he's a good choice. But I would say if you currently have a different cleanser or an immunity unit, he might not be a great option for you. As long as if you have farmed a Bastet as well, she'll be using her skills, skill 3, so applying shield and attack buff, and the overall kit of her, as far as shields go, will be a little better than Busa, and you should never combine two shielding units together, since those shields will not stack and they'll just either overwrite each other, or the stronger shield will take priority, so you're essentially wasting a third skill by running both of those in the team. So yeah, if you currently have a lot of users for Bastet, if you have an immunity unit or if you have a cleanser, do not pick the Water Pioneer and go for one of the other two. And yeah, coming to the Wind one, he's mostly a PvP unit from what I've read, but let's just refresh our memory on the skills. So second skill is fires a ball of energy to attack the enemy target 2 times, and each hit has a certain chance to apply damage taken up. So basically it's a good addition to Death Break, and it gives 30% additional damage, so already that is a good skill for a lot of tanky or boss units, since the damage taken up is mostly useful when you are stacking a lot of damage, and it won't be too useful against squishy units in PvP, for example, since once you apply that debuff, if they die within 3 seconds, it's kind of a wasted pick, since you were already gonna kill him easily already. So the second skill is mostly aimed at super tanky units or bosses. And the third skill is Lightning of Cycle. Drops lightning to attack the enemy target and deals death penetrating damage if the target's HP is below a certain ratio. Targets defeated by this skill cannot be revived and activates a link skill. So the link skill, if you are not sure, is this one. So basically after using the skill, he'll activate one of the skills here. Yeah, the wind one, let's come back to it. The third skill, right. So it deals defense penetrating damage, so basically ignore defense, if the target's HP is below a certain ratio. So this instantly kind of contradicts his second skill, since the second skill is more of a tanky unit killer or the boss killer, whilst the third skill needs a certain HP ratio to actually do significant amount of damage. So just looking at it, it would be a good setup with the second skill, but since the second skill increases the damage but does not do a lot of damage itself, if you chain the second skill into the third skill on a max HP unit, you're essentially wasting a combo here. But if you are using this into a low HP unit, then the second skill becomes kind of useless, since you already had enough damage to kill an enemy unit with your overall damage abilities with the rest of the team. So this one, just instead of doing massive damage, it will just kind of finish off a unit. So based on the third skill, I see this unit being used in PvP more, in sort of these, it's actually hard to say what even you could use him for. I can see it being used in like RTA, but so RTA as in real-time arena, or that brawl arena that we're referring to. But even if that arena, if you are able to manually control your combos, the enemy will simply see that you are using a Wind Pioneer and will be able to counter it with either shields, well, not shields, but healing, continuous recovery, stuff like that, to not let their monsters fall below a certain HP ratio. So yeah, I'm actually not a huge fan of his kit, and in my opinion, you should not pick him unless you already have both of those and do not want to get skill ups for those. Yeah, because his kit would be good, but it's like way too situational, and it sort of splits against two different gameplay aspects. So second skill is more good against tanky units and bring those tanky units down, while the third skill mostly focuses on already lower HP units, so it sort of does not match together. And yeah, you need a miracle combo where you bring just enough HP from this skill and follow it up with this skill while they're at that HP. But if you use this skill early on, the enemies will still be at full HP, so you won't be able to use this one. And keep in mind that the unit might even mess up and use the third skill first, so you're not even benefiting from the increased damage from second skill. So yeah, sort of, I'm not sure, it does not make sense in my opinion, his kit. The ultimate is similar, it actually just strikes 4 times and gives attack up to itself, but if you are using him, you are most likely already gonna have an attack up unit in your team, so like Shannon or Bastet, stuff like that. So even the half of the ultimate of applying attack buff to itself is already losing some value. So yeah, in my opinion, here's my verdict on what you should pick. So fire if you need a stripper or a decent damage dealer for bosses. Water 1 if you do not have a good immunity or a cleanser unit, or would just like a little bit of both Konamiya and Bastet in one unit while not having that attack buff essentially. And Wind 1, I would say don't pick him. He's definitely not that great, and only pick him for collection if you already have those two. But yeah, don't pick Wind. Water if you do not have, yeah, so pick in this priority. No Wind, pick Water if you do not have a cleanser or an immunity unit. If you have cleanser and immunity unit, go for the fire one. So yeah, hopefully that helped out. Of course, the short video that I promised turned out to be 20 minutes. Classic me. But yeah, thanks for watching and peace.